lit.
Exactly.
I know I need my computer right now to follow the streams, but really, we'll just take it off in a
Bring it
second.
over here, yeah.
Guys, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't gone over to our Rockfin, ROKFIN, get on over, join. We're going to be streaming the debate live from there once again. And in the CONVO couch, endorse Tina Desiree Bork,
Yes,
District 34.
That's right. I'm starting a new Rockfin channel, so I'll be actually live broadcasting my podcast there going forward.
Oh.
That's awesome. That's
Just
awesome.
saying.
How do you like Rockfin so far?
Love it.
Yeah.
You know what? This is not to diverge onto something other than the debate, but this is really important. We're getting hammered by every mainstream platform out there, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube. So these guys, it's more or less is a co-op for the creators to work with somebody that's built out a platform. They pay you more fairly. And for $9.99 a month, you get access to every creator on there. So it's not just like a Patreon where you're paying for one person.
No, you're paying for multiple
You get access
people.
to everybody. So it's like the Showtime for independence, so to speak.
Actually, true.
In a way.
You said it best. It's a co-op, and it's a cryptocurrency-based
Yeah.
co-op. So you're really raging against the machine by joining Rockfin and
100%.
helping us all out because we need the help. We are getting suppressed. Our voices being silenced. YouTube has been ridiculous, not only to just people in the political field, but everywhere else, but especially hard
I
on
mean,
anti-establishment.
I had my channel terminated, so you don't have to tell me. And I had a lot of followers, and my channel, you're right, it's not just politics. I had a lot of my old B movies on there for pay-per-view and some other things. Yeah, they don't care. If it conflicts with their corporate interests going forward into the future, they're going to terminate it.
Yep.
So there's probably another round coming.
Absolutely.
We might be on that cut. We can't deny the fact that we have to look out for that. We're going to other mediums, and that's the one area really I really hope another platform breaks through. We need it. We need to get away from YouTube and what
agree.
they're doing. We talk about our civil liberties all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They are really
Yeah.
going at our civil liberties because it's not just silencing us, right? It's pushing forth the narrative they want.
That's right.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah, look at his
guys,
feet.
let's. Well, no, guys, I'm ready to talk about politics.
All right.
I'm ready to talk about what your feelings are on impeachment, what your feelings are with what people like Tulsi Gabbard did, which is everything everybody's been talking about. I mean, that's
Today,
all
yeah.
people have been talking about today. Tina, what is your opinion on the impeachment process and how it went?
So I probably have a very unpopular opinion on this, and I'll tell you why. I do think Trump should be impeached. I don't think this was the best course. I do think Biden's son is guilty of corruption. Nobody gets that kind of money in the United States for serving on a board of directors. So there's definitely a trail that leads to both parties being corrupt. But I don't think I don't think you correct the system by letting either team get away with it. So when we start engaging in team sports, like it's okay if my team does it, it's not okay if their team does it, kind of a hypocrisy. It's a problem. And I see a lot of that going on both sides of the aisle right now. So for me, I'm like, go ahead and impeach Trump, but also go after all the other players that are on the left. I don't think this is, I don't think this should be team sports. That's point one. So the second question was about Tulsi's position, correct? Yeah. So I'm sort of an agnostic on that. No, I mean, I don't agree with Tulsi or anything, but I have a lot of respect for Tulsi. I think the light that she has shed on DNC corruption is so valuable in so many levels. I agree with her on a lot of her foreign policy. I like the stance she takes against regime change wars and stuff. But there are times when I don't agree with her, but this particular moment, I don't disagree or agree.
Right.
So, to me, for her to just say, I'm not going to take a position on this because I think she's doing it for the same reasons that I'm saying we should impeach Trump. Does that make sense?
Right. And
she sees the problems on both sides. This is her way of
the
responding to that.
hyper-partisanship.
Yeah, and that's sort of her way of responding to it. So
Absolutely.
Is it different than the method I would take? Yes. Do I still have respect for her for doing it? Fine. I think she's got valid reasons.
Awesome.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
What, you don't know how I feel on this?
Well, no, I
Fiorella?
want
Come
let
on.
our audience know how you feel.
I haven't shut up about this. Well, look, I would like to make an announcement. You know when they go to the booth in football and they say, we have a review,
God.
after further review, we have a reversal. Well, we have a reversal from my strike that I had given to Tulsi Gabbard. You know how I feel about this impeachment. I've been saying it the whole time. Not the fact that it's just, I think it's fighting hypocrisy with more hypocrisy. The fact that it's going to lift Donald Trump up and help him. You're almost essentially handing him the next election. I believe this is more helpful to him.
Wait.
than it is harmful
You don't
to
agree
him.
with that?
I don't agree with that.
Okay, but I 1,000% do.
No, I know.
I just simply can look at history and see Bill Clinton's ratings shoot up when what happened to him, and he was guilty. He lied and then admitted
Yeah, he was
slept with.
guilty.
I mean,
Yeah.
So
you could see what's going on. The ratings for this impeachment is in the tank, and it's really you're actually just helping Donald Trump. In my personal opinion.
we're gonna start the debate soon, but I just
Okay.
want to interject. I agree with Pasta that I think it actually is gonna help his base because of the reason they did it. So I agree that Donald Trump should be impeached. I don't think he should be impeached for this, and I think that if the Democrats had impeached him on emoluments or on
that was a much stronger
something
case.
else, they would have. Yeah, they
So-
wouldn't have looked like hypocrites.
I know
And-
we're going to
They
the
still
debate,
would've
but you're
looked like
right on this.
hypocrites,
Here's
a
the
different
thing.
hypocrite.
But Pelosi was unwilling to go to the mat earlier, and I have a problem with that. They did have a stronger case on many other occurrences that happened previously, and I don't understand why she picked this particular.
Alberta.
I
Now,
know.
are we going to the?
I do.
They wanted to hide their own nefarious acts.
that's-
But by what? Exposing what?
And PBS NewsHour White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor. And now, please greet tonight's candidates. They are businessman Andrew Yang, South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, former Vice President Joe Biden, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, and businessman Tom Steyer. Welcome to all, and we will be right back to begin the debate.
Look what's happening to the American workers. They're being stifled. It has to end.
We are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people.
They want what it takes to be part of America's middle class. Everybody deserves a living wage in this country.
The proposals I'm putting forward would make me the most progressive president in my lifetime.
If people are tired of the extremes in our politics, they've got a home with me.
We have a broken government in Washington, D.C.
What we need is a new voice and a new set of solutions.
This is the PBS NewsHour Politico Democratic Debate. Now, live from Los Angeles, Judy Woodruff.
Welcome back. A quick reminder of the rules for this debate. Each candidate has 1 minute and 15 seconds to answer direct questions from the moderators and 45 seconds to answer rebuttal and follow-up questions. Tonight's podium order on the stage was determined by an average of recent polls. And let's begin. To the candidates. Last night at this hour, the House of Representatives voted for only the third time in American history to impeach a president. Every one of you was in favor of this action. But unlike 1974 and President Nixon, congressional Democrats have so far not convinced a strong majority of Americans to support impeachment of President Trump. Why do you think that is, and what can you say or do differently in the coming weeks to persuade more Americans that this is the right thing to do? I want to ask all of you to respond, but to begin with Vice President Biden.
Well, you know, Judy, it was a constitutional necessity for the House to act as it did. And, Trump's response to suggest that only half of the American people want to see him thrown out of office now, I find is dumbing down the presidency beyond what I even thought he would do. Is any wonder that if you look at the international polling that's been done, that the Chinese leader is rated above the American president, or that Vladimir Putin congratulated him, saying stand fast, and in fact, it was a mistake to impeach him. We need to restore the integrity of the presidency, of the office of the presidency. And it's about time we get that underway. My job, and I think the job of all of us up here, is to, in fact, well, that's not true. Some are going to be actually voting in the Senate. But my job is to just go out and make the case why he doesn't deserve to be president of the United States for another 4 years.
Senator Sanders, why do you think more people are not in support of impeachment, and what else can you do?
Well, Judy, what I would say is that we have a president who is a pathological liar. We have a president who is running the most corrupt administration in the modern history of this country. And we have a president who is a fraud, because during his campaign, he told working people one thing, and he ended up doing something else. I believe, and I will personally be doing this in the coming weeks and months, is making the case that we have a president who has sold out the working families of this country, who wants to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid after he promised he would not do that, and who has documentedly lied thousands of times since he is president. And the case to be made is, yeah, certainly I disagree with Trump on virtually all of his policies. But what conservatives, I think, understand is that we cannot have a president with that temperament who is dishonoring the presidency of the United States.
Senator Warren, why do you think
come together to stand up for the original values, freedom, equality, justice, teamwork.
We are going to take a very short break. That does conclude our questions tonight here at Loyola Marymount University. We'll be back in just 2 minutes to hear the candidates' closing statements.
Closing.
Alrighty, so.
Alrighty, what? That was that.
Hey, so we are gathered here today in remembrance. We're gonna pray to Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm sorry.
Where are you going with that?
I have no idea where this is going.
I'm making fun
I thought
of
this was
how-
the Lord of the Rings. I was about to stand up
Yeah,
and
I
walk
was
out, and I have to
like-
sit back down because it's not
Where are
over
you
yet.
going with
We're
that?
supposed to ask for forgiveness.
Oh,
God.
right. No.
Like,
okay.
Who's
so
got it? I got a gift for you.
I got a gift for you. There's
What?
only one president on that stage tonight, and his name is Bernie Sanders.
Bernard.
Yep.
Bernard Sanders. Yes, he's
I
the
thought
only one.
Steyer was doing very good for himself. I thought the way he aligned
pretty
himself
well.
with Bernie was
Yeah.
good. I thought his answer
Yeah.
on China
Yeah.
was
China.
good. But that last closing thing with the whole teamwork, got to make the dream work. Any blue will do. No.
No. Yeah.
Listen to me, ladies and gentlemen. If you're going for the grassroots, we're putting you there to hold these people accountable,
Yeah.
not join them. We don't want you to work with them. We want you to replace them. And that's what you should have done, Tom, was drive the wedge in there and say, I'm going to give a gift to the people like Bernie did. Sorry.
That's all right. Nonetheless, he is a bit of a class traitor. I hate that I sort of
He
like
is,
him better
yeah.
than a lot of the other
Well, he
folks.
Look
is
better
better.
than Yang
He
tonight.
is better than a lot of
He's
the
better
other
than
candidates.
most all of them,
Yeah.
honestly.
Obviously, except Bernie. But
Oddly enough.
By the
Um,
way, this has been a
have-
more entertaining debate itself.
I didn't think it
than
was
the
going to be
last
that
one.
good. This was way
Because
more
they all
entertaining.
started fighting each other, so
Yeah.
it was great, and everybody was getting involved. Bernie got into it too with Joe. The Elizabeth and PDB back and forth was nice. Yang making his little jabs over there, and Klobuchar trying to
Klobuchar
be.
being
Come
the
on,
wine
guys.
She's
Have
the
a bowl of Lucky Charms.
Wine
She
mom.
made me go full wine mom over there.
I know
for
she
a
did. I
second.
saw
was
that. I was like,
okay.
Tina, where
I
are
was
you?
channeling Queen Pumala.
Yeah.
What it would be like if Tulsi Gabbard and Cory Booker were on that stage.
You know,
on a
Cory
night
Booker
like
would be
this.
having his own monologue somewhere in the corner, and Tulsi Gabbard would have just been going after Buttigieg like.
Which would have been
More.
great. I would trade Amy for either of those folks.
Oh,
Has
hell
something
yeah.
changed
How
in
is
these
she?
debates?
So hang on. How is she qualified for these debates?
And that concludes the PBS NewsHour Politico debate. I do want to thank my colleagues here at the moderator table, Tim Alberta of Politico, Amna Nawaz, and Yamiche Alcindor of the PBS.
Give me a malarkey. I'm just telling the people.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
That's
Malarkey.
a bunch of malarkey.
It's a ton of. Get on over back to our YouTube. We're gonna go live over there too as well because there's some people hanging
stay
on.
in Rockfin if you're
We're
there.
on both. We've been on both.
I'm just saying.
We got super chat contributions coming in. People got to get answered.
Always appreciated.
It's always appreciated on the couch. Elijah Freeman, hanging on out. Are we on yet?
Make sure. Hold on.
Let's wait.
I don't know what's going on there with Fee.
Fee's not in the picture right now. She's looking for battery.
What's going on over there?
I'm quitting because it's a bunch of malarkey.
She's walking out. It's a bunch of malarkey.
Okay, it's okay now.
So wow, since you guys are completely
Okay, so
engrossed
we
with
got
that, I'm
Elijah
just gonna
Freeman.
talk
No, we're
now.
back here. We're here.
Okay.
I'm good.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Welcome back to the CONVO Couch on the YouTube post-game coverage. I am your host, co-host, Pasta Jardula, with Fiorella
Excuse me.
Isabella and Tina
Isabella.
Desiree Burke, not Desire. It's Desiree.
Not desire.
We're a little bit
That's
crazy
bunch
over
of
here. We
malarkey.
drank some fun time. Let's go. Elijah Freeman, he says, Yang didn't include Tulsi and people of color.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's
You
jacked
exposed
up.
yourself. I left a tweet. That was kind of, because
We left
it's
a
just the
tweet.
fact that, not the fact that he left out Tulsi Gabbard, the fact
Yeah.
that he's just pandering to the establishment.
Cory
He
Booker
pandered
and
to the
Kamala
establishment
Harris.
tonight.
I could say I miss Cory Booker's drama. I do not really miss Kamala Harris. I did say like, oh well, she'd be like entertaining because she's like her
No,
voice
no,
quivers
no.
and she's all like, oh, my name is Kamala, but I don't really miss her. I wouldn't really miss her.
Those aren't the reasons why I would miss her, but I don't miss her either.
And by the way, Elijah Freeman left 2 other super chats. Elijah Freeman, thank you for the super chat
Elijah.
contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. OMG. Get Joe to bed. I said that earlier today too. Closing remarks was brutal. You're telling me, my friend. Give him some warm milk and cookies.
Yeah.
It's time. Oh, we got cookies? I mean, gift questions. Geez, Biden, go to bed. Elijah, I feel what you're saying because the whole night, Joe Biden, once again, he pretty much invoked World War III with China.
Yeah.
And I talked about sanctioning
Oh yeah, that was
them.
some serious saber rattling.
Please,
he was
ladies and
doing.
gentlemen,
Yeah,
you guys
yeah,
talk about
it
that
was bad.
because you know how I am, foreign policy nut. You know I am about China.
Look, but hang on, to sort of equate that sort of World War III saber rattling regime change language with China is insane to me.
Exactly.
And I'm really pissed.
What has China done to deserve that? They might be
Well,
our trade competitor. They might be.
They've stood against our imperialism. They
Right,
try
I
to
mean,
maintain
like,
themselves
okay, so
separate
they
from us.
they held up
Yeah.
the currency. Like you go through
Yeah.
all the economic, but honestly, are you kidding me with this?
Guys, this is what. Remember when we had these talks about China for so long? Because this was the reason. Honestly, at the end of the day, I understand there's an authoritarian regime, but
There it is.
the fact that if we continue with that dialogue, that same mentality, eventually it would lead to what Joe Biden was saying. He said that in a Democratic primary, for crying out loud. That's
Yeah.
on the left.
So-
Talking about moving our Navy into that area, putting sanctions on China. This is what I was scared about all along, and now it's right there full frontal in our faces.
But see, this is the problem I have with neoconservatives across the board, and neoliberals and neoconservatives. I call them neoists because they're more or less the same group.
Yeah.
They have this naive belief that every other nation out there wants our ideals and that they think our ideals are the correct ideals, which is very naive.
And when they
Democracy?
stand up for themselves, then they're vilified.
Indeed, but here's the thing. Whatever change must come from within. Each one of these countries has to find their own footing and go through
cannot
their
be
own
the police
course.
of the world.
We can't impose our ideals on anybody else and expect them to accept them as anything other than invasion, regime change, and the things. But how many wars do we have to go through where this is the case? And, we can go back as far as Vietnam. I've often said what started the Vietnamese War wasn't anything to do with communism. It was that they were fighting for their freedom from a colonial French Empire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Natural
all of these
resources.
things are rooted in natural resources, economics, and fighting corporatism. And by corporatism, I mean everything rooting back to colonization. Anyway,
Yeah.
I kind of digress, but point being that when he uses this sort of saber rattling in a way that I'm the hero, I'm the savior of these folks, and they want me to come in and invade and save them, it's just malarkey, to use his word. It's naive.
It's a bunch of malarkey.
It's naive as F-U-C-K because can we cuss? Yeah. Because it assumes that every single one of these nations hold our same ideals, and they do not.
Can we talk about how Bernie Sanders admitted
Yes, we
he was
can.
wrong about Afghanistan and then said, he apologized
Yeah.
for that. That takes a lot of courage
I
for
love
somebody
Bernie.
that's a presidential candidate to do something like
This
that.
is why I love Bernie, though.
Ava, do you have something? Oh,
Is
okay.
my microphone good?
Oh, okay.
No.
Oh,
Oh.
you did. Gotcha. All right.
Okay. So, but this is why I love Bernie. Bernie is willing to admit his mistakes. He's willing to move his
Absolutely.
barometer over when it needs to be moved. He listens to his constituents and supporters, and he's willing to have his position change when he's presented with new information.
Yeah.
To me, that is what a real leader does,
Yep.
right? And it's not always easy, but
No, it's
he's
not.
one of the few politicians that is willing to do that, and that is one of the biggest reasons why I support him.
Yeah, and I think Tulsi wasn't there, but he was like, okay, we need to, be pro-Palestinian. We need to not,
And we do.
continue killing people. We need to, we need to admit that we voted for these wars that were wrong.
That's right.
And I think that was one of the main criticisms that a lot of his independents and libertarians, Pasta, you can speak to that,
Yeah.
have criticized him on not really focusing on foreign policy. He did that today.
Yeah,
He did that today.
Well,
He
he
did
took
it in a
that
good
one
way,
area
yeah.
where there's some. Well, listen, the argument I think when a lot of people when they talk about foreign policy and who's the best at it, whatnot, but the one area of Palestine and Israel, a lot of people still feel, and this is foreign policy people that feel that Bernie might be a little bit better than Tulsi when it comes to that situation.
I agree with that.
Some people, but it's very
is
close.
adopted.
We all agree that
doesn't
they could
really
all be
feel like we're
much
being
better on
impeached.
this, period, right? But what Bernie did today, whether Tulsi is better or not better on this issue, Bernie solidified himself to
Yeah.
the masses of people, the majority of people, that hey, listen, we got to be pro-Israel, but we got to be pro-Palestine, and that resonated hard. Like that's a fair man who's coming up with fair solutions.
Yeah.
Independents can wrap their mind around that. And when he also pointed out Netanyahu, and you know how
He's
I
a
am
racist.
about pointing out.
He called him point blank a
Yeah.
racist, and he's right. He is.
And you know how I feel about pointing out other heads of country. I don't like it, but with Israel, it's different.
It's different.
Because it's a connection of the United States. It's an extension of the United States. So in this particular case, I was happy what Bernie did. He really did separate himself tonight on that answer. Bernie won the debate tonight. It was a debate.
Hands
Yeah, no,
down.
he won the debate.
It was a Bernie show.
Yeah.
That's
It was
what
the Bernie show. And here's the thing that gets me the last week and a half or so. We've already seen folks, and it's not just the right, it's also establishment Democrats start to like kind of, to use the Warren thing from earlier, nibble around the edges of this idea that I'm going to call Bernie Sanders an anti-Semitic person because he's willing to talk about Palestinian rights. The difference between Corbyn and Sanders, though, is you're going to have a hard road to toe with making that case against Bernie simply because he is Jewish. And there is something to that.
Yeah, there is.
And if you're not a Jewish person, you shouldn't always interfere in an internal community dialogue because there are lots of Jewish folks that aren't Zionist.
Yeah. Right.
And they are absolutely to the left of Bernie. I have friends in Tel Aviv that don't like Bernie Sanders because they don't think he's left enough. They don't think Zionism is compatible with having a non-racist viewpoint of the world.
Yeah.
As far as they're concerned, that it's sort of a ideology of supremacy, a political supremacy. So, which is, and you can make, I mean, this would be an hour-long conversation. You can definitely make the case of that. But point being, him even saying what he said tonight is so far from the American dialogue, or the he's moved the Overton window, I think, in a way this evening.
Tonight.
That was necessary
not only
and
that,
good.
but to your point about like Jeremy Corbyn, what I read from this, and once again I didn't follow it too closely, it's British politics, is that he was too I don't want to, if I'm using the word right, ambiguous, or didn't really make a choice on the position. He didn't acknowledge
appeared
it
as a weaker leader.
What's that? As a weaker
appeared as
leader
a
because he
weaker
was
leader.
indecisive, right? You know what I'm saying? Bernie was
strong.
not
Bernie comes
indecisive.
from a
What
place
he
of
did
strength.
tonight
Yeah.
is what Jeremy Corbyn failed to do in Britain. He did that tonight with that statement. That should be looped over and over and over again, because we've said this. Bernie is not Jeremy Corbyn.
No.
He's not an indecisive leader. But that's what we talked about, the Cenk thing, the Maddo for Leah thing.
I agree.
Going back and forth makes him look indecisive. Not tonight.
I agree, but here's the problem. Let me just point this out. Jeremy Corbyn is afraid to do what Bernie did.
Exactly. He is.
And I can tell you why. It's because if the Hospira, I've used this word before, it means explaining, it's propaganda. Americans, and Britons both, Britain less so, believe it or not, than the United States, are told to believe certain things. Like, they've worked really hard to make sure, the Zionists have worked really hard to make sure that you have this conflated idea of what it is to be Jewish and what it is to be a Zionist, as if they are the same. And this is absolutely not the case. These are two different things. And in fact, when the State of Israel was originally created, most Jewish folks didn't support Zionism as a political theory. So again, we could get into an hour-long conversation on this. I don't need to hijack the conversation. But I think it's really important because this conversation affects so much of the geopolitical aspects of not only Europe and the United States, but everybody else that surrounds our political sphere, which is like, the entire world, right? We are the big police, as you said earlier.
Right.
So I think it's important that we change the conversation. We move the overton window. Bernie did that tonight, and I'm forever grateful for it. I wish he would move even further left. I mean, as we speak, you have settlements going into the Golan Heights, which is occupied Syria. So this is no longer even the West Bank or Hebron, Ramallah. We're now going into.
But when it comes to that, it's one issue. It's one area. I mean. Moving the Overton window. It was a big move today, but
big one.
Let's not get too carried away right now. It was a
I'm
win
getting
tonight,
carried away.
Well,
this is an issue I care deeply about, as you know.
Listen, I would not even argue the fact that say that it's one of the most issues highest at the top to take care of, because it's a serious issue.
It's serious.
And Bernie even mentioning Gaza today,
it's
too,
serious.
Inside that whole statement.
And let me just say one more thing before I move on. Most people that support the other side of the spectrum on this issue, they don't do it because they give a shit about Jewish people. They do it because of the geopolitical reasons, or because the most perverse thought out there is because they're Christian Zionists. So
yes.
Well, I have to bring up the whole weird ask for forgiveness segment.
Oh
yeah,
my
that was
God.
weird. That was
because
weird. That was an odd ending. I thought.
I felt like it was very church-like. Like, are you going to ask for forgiveness, Senator Warren? Are you going to ask for forgiveness? It was just the weirdest
hi-hat
situation. And then when Elizabeth Warren, that's what kind of irritated me a lot. Is Elizabeth Warren asking feeling, crying, whatever she was doing.
That felt kind of phony to me
it did feel phony, and of course, we know her Medicare for All plan is now not Medicare for All.
We should talk
it's
about
Medicare
Elizabeth
for
right
choice.
now. Yes.
Well, yes, and she said she would not fight for Medicare for All until her third year in office. That was a tweet she made. So when she talked about the insulin and the family having to share it between three, I wasn't buying any of it, because if she really believed that, why are you waiting for the third year to fight for it?
But why do people like Jayapal and Addie Barkin?
Why do they defend? I know. I don't
has
understand
done this shit before when it comes to Adam Smith against Sarah Smith, and she's sitting there standing behind a defense contractor horde. I mean,
I don't get it.
Once again, and her statements on the impeachment floor, once again, she seems so hypocritical when she takes just one side. Yes, that side might be true, but there's another side to the story, and that's also true. But let's stay on Elizabeth Warren. How did she do tonight?
Okay.
1 through 10? I mean, I really thought tonight, the jostling back at PDB, it was kind of cool. It was good, whatnot. But that he got to finish the last thing and say, hey, lady, you're talking about me taking the money from the Batcave when you transferred money from your Senate campaign when you were talking to the same donors.
Did you
say
hashtag, you said Batcave?
The Batcave, whatever they call it.
Is that the wine cave?
The wine cave. But, Bruce Wayne's Batcave. But once again.
We're shaking the money tree in the wine cave.
That was very damaging. It's obvious to me that Pete Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren watched the CONVO couch because they saw.
Speaking of Elizabeth Warren, I'm sorry, I have to read this tweet from Anna Kasparian. Back in June. Me too. Back in June, she said, Warren's economic policies are fire, and I'll never apologize for supporting them. Her foreign policy is terrible, and I've been on the record on that. But you probably don't know if you listen to idiots who literally are Tulsi operatives.
What?
Am I a Tulsi operative?
She said,
When was that posted?
June, not too
All right,
long
so
ago.
okay, I could understand the economic thing back in June because Warren was definitely not making the 3 years into my office I'll fight for Medicare for all statements back then. We've actually really seen who Warren is in the last, I'd say, 6 or 7 weeks.
How'd she do tonight?
I think in June she was actually pretty solid. I just don't.
Tonight was
Tonight,
not her
guys.
best performance.
Can I be frank with you? I don't trust Warren. So I come from a place whenever I hear her speak that I like
the crying part that you liked. I heard
that
you
seems,
chuckle.
yeah, I was like, seems fake to me. But often I like what she's saying. I just don't
Yeah.
believe she's
You just
sincere
don't
about
believe
it.
she's
That
gonna
is
follow
true.
through.
She does pander well at sometimes.
No, she's a good
And look,
pander.
I didn't used to believe that. I used to really like
Me
Warren.
too.
I used to
Me
really
too.
support her. I thought she was sincere.
Yeah.
And I've just little by little have had that belief just stripped down because the more I learn of her, the more I see of her, and the more I see her, like, why would she even tweet that? Even if this is true, I'm not going to fight for Medicare for all till my 3rd year in office. Why would she tweet that? That is not to the benefit of her winning this election whatsoever. It's so tone deaf. I don't get it.
Yeah, she just seemed really disingenuous. Like, I agree with you. Like, I feel like she says the right things sometimes, but she doesn't seem very sure about the things she says. She seems to lack confidence. She seems to also not really believe in what she's saying. And to me, that just is contagious to, like, okay, you're not really going to follow through.
So the first losing my religion, so to speak, when it came to Warren was when, if you recall back when she was doing consumer protection, she went after Hillary Clinton.
She did.
For really good reasons on
Right.
Okay, so, and I was with her on that because the criticism was well earned. Hillary Clinton was totally wrong. I mean,
She went away from that.
but
that
she
whole
went away with that.
mentality,
When
and
she
she's
turned around
different
and
right now.
she went.
Yeah.
When I'll tell you, the first thing was when she endorsed Hillary in the last primary. I was stunned by that. I'm like,
Even
you.
this time walking around with Hillary too.
I
It's
agree.
disturbing to see her walking around
It's
this
disturbing.
time around.
But she
with
also
Hillary.
said when she was asked about this, she also said it was because she was looking for influence. And so to me, this is not my person. I know every time Bernie does something, he's not doing it because he's looking for.
He's
Do you know
doing it
what?
'cause it's the
Have
right
you
thing.
ever heard the term philosopher king?
Yes.
Anyone?
Yes,
So this
yes,
is like
yes,
Plato.
yes,
I'm sort of.
Philosopher
Thank
king,
you for attending my TED talk, by the way. I can't help but have an MA in
Wait,
philosophy.
wait.
But Bernie really is a philosopher king. He seeks office not because he's looking for power or for money. He's actually doing it because he
Yes.
believes in these ideals, and they are innate to who he is as a
and that's
as a
why
human
it doesn't
being.
come off as phony.
Correct.
Because he doesn't have to try to strategize as to how it's going to be perceived and how it's going to look.
Yeah.
Like, when you leave Bernie on his own away from everything else, he is Bernie. And that in itself just sells it for you because it's not a sale. It's who he is.
It is
Tonight,
who he is.
also the question for Elizabeth Warren, while we're still finishing up on her.
Yeah.
Another layup question about Guantanamo Bay.
Wait,
It's once again,
2008?
it's when they go to. That's what Johnny said. What is this? 2008.
Johnny.
But if you've noticed, this is the second time they've done that,
Yeah, it
where
was
they've
weird.
gone to her to make her look. That's why these clues to me,
Softball.
these chess moves, fam, like they are getting ready to put Elizabeth Warren out there. It looked like today that it was PDB's turn to get attacked, but Elizabeth Warren tried to skate through. Before we get to PDB, let's get a super chat contribution from Gloria Jones. Thank you so much. Thank the Lord I have the MCSC network, the CONVO couch, to keep me sane. That was toxic. Okay,
It was
toxic. Sad there was no mention of Julian Assange dying for exposing war crimes.
And
Amy
the Afghani
Klobuchar did say
papers.
something about journalists, but that's it.
Afghanistan was only mentioned when Bernie said, "Oh, we should have."
No, that is a disgrace. Can we talk about that for a
Which
second?
one?
Okay,
Julian
so
Assange.
yes, so Amy Klobuchar's father is a well-respected journalist who fought for First Amendment rights. I don't know how many people know that. I just cannot believe that we are at a time. Look, journalism is under attack. I think we can all see this. The First
Real
Amendment,
journalism.
yes, indeed,
Yeah.
real, but even journalism in general.
Yeah.
You know, part of it. We
Mainstream
can have a
media.
separate conversation about corporate media and the money and influence and how that's changed.
Right.
But what I'm talking about is like actual First Amendment rights. I don't think, and if you're not willing to stand up for what Julian Assange did with WikiLeaks, what Edward Snowden did with what he exposed with the NSA, then you're not standing up for First Amendment rights. And this is the biggest beef. This is the biggest beef I have with Adam. What'd you call him?
Adam
Shifty?
Schifferbrains?
Shifty. Yeah, you know, he's not a First Amendment guy. He's like a gnat sack. Wait, dare I say it? He's a spook.
He is.
Hashtag Adam Schiff is a spook.
But
does everybody think Adam Schiff's a spook? Pete Buttigieg a spook?
Let us know.
Let us know.
Let us know. But I digressed.
The fact is that they didn't ask any questions about it tonight.
They did not. They did not. And it's something we should be talking about.
Yes.
Well, because it exposes them.
I
Like, the
agree.
reason Assange is in jail, the reason he was persecuted isn't because he did anything wrong. It's because he told the public about what the government was doing to them, and the government didn't like
he
it.
did it time and time again.
Exactly.
It's just frustrating.
You know what? These debates are just like a parallel kind of like. We talk about the First Amendment rights. We talk about our civil liberties. We talk about journalism. But that's the whole thing. They control the rhetoric. They control the language. Yeah. Just like in these debates, they control what's said. They're actually feeding the zombies out there, the people who are just trying to just survive nowadays, that are not in this echo chamber political bubble.
Yep.
How to think, what's important to them. They're telling them that, they're feeding them, and you know what they're saying? Don't talk about civil liberties. Don't talk about who's controlling the conversation, because they don't want us woke.
They don't. You know, and because I'm slightly older than y'all.
No, you're not.
Oh, maybe. All right. No,
I guess, you are
a little bit. Okay. But I mean, we can go back. I want to take us back to like 2010, 2011.
Yes, go back.
I'm going to take it back for just a smidge.
Go in.
Because I think this is a really important conversation we're having right now. H.B. Gary Federal. Some folks will know what I'm talking about and some folks won't. There seems to be a collective amnesia about this, and I think it's a really important part of this conversation. H.B. Gary Federal there were leaks surrounding that. There was a hack with Anonymous. Barrett Brown did time in jail over this, a journalist that used to work at The Intercept. But these guys were building what they called persona management and using troll farms. And these were corporations that were doing it. They targeted Glenn Greenwald. I couldn't get that out. Union backers, Bank of America was involved. But this was all exposed. So these were corporations setting up these troll farms where you had one real actor and then you had a bunch of fake personas attached to various social media accounts. And this was all very nascent back in the day. Palantir was involved. So a lot of the folks that were involved in the Cambridge the reason I'm bringing this up is this Cambridge Analytical stuff, that the scary the scary Russia stuff. But the H.B. Gary stuff was far more egregious and doesn't get discussed whatsoever. And I'm kind of over this idea that if we're going to talk about Russia hacking our election, even though they didn't actually hack anything, why are we not discussing all of these other things that surround that? The Palantir has been involved with all of these other nefarious corporations on a far larger scale than what Cambridge Analytica was in association with Russia. And the damage that has done to our First Amendment rights and to our democracy. This stuff isn't getting discussed. And I know, it's 2019, 9 years, 11 years, 10 years on. This hasn't changed. It's still happening. Palantir is involved now with several local law enforcements, with ICE. So this company has been around a long ass time doing really horrendous stuff. But why is it that it's only sexy when Russia's involved or Hillary Clinton's involved?
Because it's the distraction. It's the elites who they want to.
Well, it's because
control.
the nuclear arms race is still going on. The Cold War never really ended, and because we have to solidify our stance as the imperial leaders, as the imperial power. And you saw what Biden was doing. He was preaching for nuclear war with China.
Yeah.
Amy Klobuchar was echoing that. So was Pete Buttigieg. I mean, this is where they want us to go. The more they fearmonger people into thinking, Donald Trump is the sole enemy, Russia is the sole enemy, Donald Trump is Putin's puppet, and so now these are the enemy, and then in China, and then Kim Jong-un. It's like, well, then we don't have an ability to see outside of that and see how our own government are the ones that are committing the crimes and are doing this and pushing this idea.
That conversation tonight on the stage, notice they went for China because they know public opinion about
China's
China.
The new.
It's an area that they can go after. They can saber rattle and still look good because China's looked at as the authoritarian, facial recognition, evil. We're going to fucking snatch your children. Empire.
Hang on, we're using facial recognition in the United States.
I understand
that. How many people
but
don't know this, though?
We do.
You know that.
We've been using this for a while. But here's something that they did not talk about foreign policy tonight. They did not talk about Bolivia one bit.
Not
No
one.
Bolivia.
They didn't talk
thing
about the
about
OPCW with the fucking gassing bombs. You know what I'm saying? Because that is where they are wrong. That is where the deep state and the oligarchs have pushed us over the edge. And it's not sexy to talk about those things where they're always constantly wrong. And it just blew up in their face.
Yeah.
But will they bring that up? The party of the left, the anti-war party,
No, because
the peace party? Fuck no.
Neither party is anti-war. That's the problem. When it comes to foreign policy in the United States of America, they look at this ridiculous Can I cuss?
Yeah.
Look at this ridiculous motherfucking defense budget
And they all
that was
voted for
pretty
it.
much stamped by every member
yes.
of Congress.
Yes. And also that Hong Kong bill that went through, they understand that, okay, the Democrats, when it comes to that one, it's like Venezuela. They're on the same page. They're on the same fucking page, and they can do it.
It's
How
war
come we got to
incorporated.
go down and we got to ask the presidential candidates about Bolivia, and we put it on record, but it's not even mentioned, while Evo Morales is in friggin' Argentina hiding out because there was a bounty on his fucking head from a Western-backed coup. And we're not talking about it again. It's like Ukraine all over again. Maybe they'll impeach the Republican president 12 years down the road. Said he had a phone call with somebody in friggin' Bolivia.
That's why it's important that people like Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard stand up against
that was still corrupt.
regime
just
change.
Put that out there. What Trump did was still corrupt.
What?
Oh, here we go.
Oh,
Impeachment. I don't think he did anything
We're not
beyond
getting
his
into
purview.
that. I want to
but
show you
yeah.
guys. I want to show you guys the.
I really don't think.
I'm
not on Ukraine.
How long each candidate spoke.
Go ahead.
Wait.
Sanders spoke during this debate at the top. He was at the top. He spoke 20 minutes and 30 seconds. Klobuchar came in second in 19 minutes, 53 seconds.
Important voice there, guys.
Warren, 1936, third. Buttigieg was fourth, 1933. Biden was third to last with 15 minutes. Steyer had 11 minutes, and then Yang at the bottom, 10 minutes and 50 seconds.
And this is the end debate, the end overall.
Yeah.
Well,
this is
I think
updated.
it's interesting that this is the first time we've seen Sanders at the top.
Yeah,
exactly.
Which he
That was
should have
really
been, but he
interesting.
should have been all along, as far as I'm concerned. And he smoked the stage.
Yeah.
Like
It didn't even
head and
feel like
shoulders
he
above
talked
everybody
that
else.
much, to be honest. It felt like everybody else talked more because when they talked, they didn't say shit.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Guys, like, share, subscribe. If you watch tonight on a Rockfin, thank you so much. We looked like it went pretty well. There was a couple technical difficulties. We'll be talking to the team tomorrow, I'm sure. Johnny Sue usually follows up with a report card, but it was a good platform, and it's a good way for us to stream our debates. We want to thank you for joining on in.
Yes.
Also, we
Join
have our
Rockfin.
Patreon. Yes, join our Rockfin. We have a Patreon. Tina, you got a Patreon?
I do not. I have no Patreon.
No Patreon, but we
She's
can
a
find
Rockfin.
her.
I have a Rockfin.
Our Twitter address is right below it. We have the
Yeah.
good setup with Johnny Sue and Eva Crowder in the studio today. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap this up pretty soon. Anything to say, take your last takes on the debate tonight? Who won, who lost, who should go away, and who's taking a bump up? Fee.
Well, Bernie Sanders hands down won this debate. He absolutely, it was the strongest and most fired up. He actually went after people. He went after Buttigieg. He went after Biden. He separated himself from these candidates, and I feel like that's something he hadn't done before. He also became the anti-war candidate on the stage. He differentiated himself from these pro-regime seeking, pro-war people. Even on impeachment, he brought it back to the economics of the situation. I mean, on every note, he hit it, and he just kind of solidified himself again as the candidate of the working class, and not as just somebody that's repeating, slogans. Not the middle class, this and that. He led the debate because everybody else pretty much repeated what he said, but they weren't genuine about it, and they switched the words around a little bit. So, Bernie.
I agree. Bernie totally won.
Loser
100%.
today?
Oh, loser.
Loser tonight?
Loser.
Multiple.
I feel
Overall.
I feel like overall Pete Buttigieg because he got attacked on all ends. But always Biden. Biden to me, he just doesn't really stand out. And then the third, I would say Elizabeth Warren. I feel like most of the time she gets by being progressive and by saying the right things. But this time she seemed a little bit insecure. And when the camera went on her, when they called on her, she was like, "Oh, you're calling on me." She just seemed out of it. She didn't seem like she was all there.
Yeah.
And Amy Klobuchar's like she's funny, but she's like entertainment, and I just don't, I don't really get it. I really think like Bernie Sanders, Steyer, and probably Yang was the third. I do feel like Yang was disingenuous with a lot of things, but
Tina, winner we know tonight was Bernie Sanders. Why? And then who was the big loser for tonight?
Oh, Bernie Sanders by a mile. Like there's no competition there. He was President Sanders on the stage this evening. Every answer he gave was solid. It spoke directly to the point. And when he was pushed back against, he came back even stronger. We had just an amazing performance by Senator Sanders this evening. I'd say the biggest loser, I have to agree, is Pete. Mayor Pete.
Yeah.
Although I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to say Amy was the second loser because I just don't even understand why she's on that stage.
Yeah,
honestly.
nobody does.
Yeah. I'm going to agree 1,000%. Like, if anybody has to go away, it's Amy Klobuchar.
It's Amy. Yeah, 100%. It's time. Biden, I feel the same way about, yet he continues to be in the front of the polls, which I don't understand. Are people just not paying attention to him?
Exactly.
Because every time he opens his mouth, you're like,
Jesus Christmas.
Yeah, it's frightful.
Yeah.
Is it weird that I sort of want to talk about the 15% delegate rule right now out of left field?
Yeah, we're going to wrap this up. And it's a little weird. Wrapping this up. That's just winners, losers, and then we'll go on.
Well, she said that about earlier.
You could do a little quick closing real quick.
Well, it's just sort of in my head when you're talking about winners and losers because it's percentages,
I'm
right?
going to do the winner or loser real quick,
Okay.
wrap it up, and then we'll do a little synopsis of what's to do, and then we'll get on out of here.
A mini TED Talk? A mini
TED
I'm the director. I'm the director. I'm in charge here.
So you're the producer, fam. I'm the director.
I am the queen. I do.
So here we go. Everybody's claiming a position. So listen. So obviously Bernie Sanders won tonight. She said the reasons why. I did like Tom Steyer tonight. This candidate is definitely growing on me. Not that he's my number one
I didn't like
choice.
the whole
He's my number
Hillary
3
Clinton
choice.
was the best candidate, blah, blah, blah.
He said best prepared.
Whatever.
And that was not true. And I also didn't like his teamwork answer because I want him to separate himself. But he did revindicate himself when he was doing his closing statements, and he said he was separate. I also like the fact that he keeps on talking about the economy. We got to go after Trump on the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, hey, yo, only Bernie Sanders. And he aligned himself with Bernie Sanders tonight, too, as well.
Which was smart.
Bernie is right. I mean, he was really smart tonight. The economy. It's the economy, stupid, right? That's where he was directing the conversation. Also, his answer on China wasn't the best because he didn't necessarily call out the nefarious acts from these NGOs there, but he did say we need to sit down and work with China. Completely opposite from what Biden said, which was scary tonight, World War III. He was the big loser. But also, scary. I think Pete Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren didn't do themselves well because at the end of that debate, it's a cliquey kind of thing. People are going to start going, oh, what happened? The money from her Senate race? I didn't know about that. They're going to click over to the CONVO couch. They're going to see Fiorella explaining, when she was called QAnon, right? Now that Pete Buttigieg said it, now will you retract your statement, Emma Vigeland? All right, okay, because we called this months ago. So I think that was a big loser for them.
Anna already blocked me. We don't need Emma to block me.
Well, Fiorella talked about Elizabeth Warren transferring over her money from her Senate run, and that
which
money
she
was
did do.
Yes, and that money was from the same donors that Pete Buttigieg said that you're accusing me of.
That's actually fundamentally true.
Yeah.
What somebody said that was
Emma
false?
said that was QAnon.
Really?
For why QAnon, the left
that's
QAnon.
Verifiably true information.
It is verifiably true.
I miss all the drama apparently.
So before we get out of here,
real quick, I want to say who I thought won.
Go ahead.
Of course, Bernie won.
Your mic's on. Beautiful.
And then the biggest loser was Buttigieg.
Yeah.
Okay, we all agree on this.
Everyone was beating up on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was good. It was nice.
But they had valid reasons for beating up. It wasn't let's pick on Pete. It was Pete, you suck. Fair enough, but they had valid reasons for picking on Pete.
Exactly. It was let's pick on Pete night tonight.
Right, fair.
It's crazy that the establishment would attack each other like that.
100%. But I also think the reason is because he had the greatest increase in support all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So it made him the target.
That usually is what it mirrors.
Yeah, it made him the target.
When Elizabeth was the greatest support, bam, they went after Elizabeth.
You have my donors. You suck. Give me back my donors.
You're so loud.
Sorry.
God.
Johnny, anything else?
I feel like I need to duck over pies.
I want to show the Google Trends.
Google Trends.
So this is from 4 hours. You can see Andrew Yang is in blue, Tulsi Gabbard's in red, Bernie Sanders is in yellow, Joe Biden's in green, Klobuchar I put in there, and she's purple. Now, if you look before the debate, Tulsi was actually dominating all the search.
She was at the top.
She's at the top. She's in red. She's at the top.
Where is she? Was she?
Before the debate.
Before the
I
debate.
see. Okay.
And then
Who's Tulsi? Why is she not in this?
During the debate, which started at 5,
Is she still being? She's probably still being
Yang,
Googled.
Nah, well,
No?
she
Okay.
was,
Okay.
but she was like midway, and then it looks like most of it was Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang was definitely getting
That
Googled
sort
the
of makes
most.
sense because the American public are still not really clear on who
And
he
he-
is.
he
So
had-
they see him tonight. He's one of the 7 contenders,
And
and
he
they're
had
like,
the
"How
least
is
amount
this
of
guy
speaking
on the
time.
stage? Let me find out who he is." That makes sense.
Yeah, and
It's
then
logical.
Bernie Sanders always gets like a good solid Google search, but
Bernie's our next president. Fam.
Andrew Yang definitely had the highest average.
Yeah.
And then Klobuchar actually had second.
Klobuchar.
I thought Yang sucked tonight.
It's because she was a wine mom. I thought he did pretty
pandered
bad
to
today
this.
too.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's maybe it's
Yeah.
me and stuff. He was bringing out all the tools. You know what I'm saying? He was very establishment-y, playing the victim.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever seen him with that rhetoric. Like, I'm the only person of color on stage. I'm like, is that Andrew Yang?
Yeah,
I've
but
never really
then
heard
he
him use that
didn't. He
rhetoric.
didn't. He's,
Well,
you know,
to be fair,
brought
he
up-
was asked that question though, wasn't
Yeah, but
he?
he brought up Booker and Kamala Harris.
Yeah, no,
Are you
yeah,
serious?
that was he left off Tulsi.
Yeah,
he didn't.
at all.
Yeah,
And he's gonna do that
they're
for a
friends. I
reason.
mean, they've
was-
done stuff.
I think their
if he
supporters
wasn't,
are friends.
Yeah, no, but they have posted like, oh, hey, I agree.
Well,
no,
he didn't say her
it
night
was
tonight
just
because
really
it was
weird.
dangerous to say that. And I want somebody
Well, I
to say,
think
you know,
he's
he
being
should.
threatened by her now.
Well, maybe
They're
he
kind
is.
of pulling very similarly, so I
Well,
think
his whipped
that's
cream
also...
thing was a little freaky too, man.
Wait, whipped
Oh
cream.
yeah, that whipped cream situation.
Jesus
Wait,
Christ.
what?
All right, let's talk
Okay.
about those delegates now before we get on to
Wait,
the whipped
Johnny
cream.
will bring
Oh,
it up.
wait,
but-
whipped cream situation.
Oh God! Before we get on to the whipped cream,
I don't know
thing,
what
here it
y'all
is.
are talking about whipped cream.
Oh my!
What?
Now Tina's getting ideas. Tina, keep your mind on the delegates.
Keep your mind on the delegates.
Mind on my
Tina
delegates.
Desire
Mind
Burke.
on my delegates. Mind on my delegates. Mind on my delegates.
Now,
What?
a synopsis of what's going on.
Well,
in the delegates.
so I've been thinking about this. You know, we have a 15% rule as far as pledged delegates. So there's been a lot of talk about how we're going to get into the second round of voting at the convention and that the super delegates are going to kill us. But I'm actually beginning to believe, and you might think I'm crazy for this, that might not be the case. I know you think I'm crazy for lots of things, but let me work through this. Because of the 15% rule, they have to allocate delegates with smaller percentages, right? And because there's such a broad field still going into these states, it's not going to be 2 people. It's not going to be 3 people. It's going to, I think, feasibly be 5 or 6 people still. So if you have like per se 2 candidates that are at 15%, 14%, the rest of those delegates aren't going to go to the candidates at 2 and 3%. They get allocated to the other ones mathematically. So this could help us. We could see ourselves going into the convention with a 51% lead if it plays out a certain way. I think it's important that we don't get distracted with this idea that we're going to, get clobbered in the second round at the convention, because I don't think it's going to happen.
I think it's important that we don't assume that it's not going to happen, because this is what they're going to try to do. And, I have people that have told me, the idea is to make sure that Bernie doesn't even get to the second round, that he
agree
loses
with
on
you.
the first round.
I
because
agree.
they can then get some delegates. Let's say, it's Warren and Biden. Warren's goes to Biden or vice versa.
That's my
and
point. But they
the
can't do that. They can't do that with the pledged delegates because they're allocated mathematically on the state level.
Yes, but if you are, if once you're at the convention, you can switch and say, well, I don't want to be a Bernie delegate. I'm going to be a Warren
Not
delegate.
the pledge that are allocated at the state level. Yes, on the others. But I'm saying
on the Bernie delegate.
Yeah, if we
Yes.
if it turns out that we get there with a good enough margin, then it becomes a non sequitur, is what I'm saying. So this is not a popular opinion. I understand. I know. I'm aware. But it's something that's been on my mind the last couple of weeks. And I'm just saying, the more candidates we have in the race, it could end up being better for us, not worse. And that's sort of not conventional wisdom in the political sphere right now.
All right.
I don't necessarily think that.
So
but okay.
you can direct all the crazy responses to that at my Twitter. I will respond.
Twitter is there down below.
Tina,
Conversations
Desiree
for another
Burke,
day. Johnny, can I get that drum,
face.
please?
What do you want? You're so annoying. You're not director here. Stop controlling everything.
All right. You didn't hear
All
it.
right, you all are fun. I love coming on your
Thank
show.
you very much. Fiorella,
Well,
please.
he's
okay?
being really controlling,
I'm
and
not
as a
being
woman, I
controlling.
just don't like that.
Oh, my Lord. Here we go.
Sorry.
I thought I was the Brian Gumble of the show. That's
What is that?
I know. I'm a little bit too old. Tina might know. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
I do know. That's why I'm
I
real
know.
laughing. So
I thought I was the Chuck Todd of the Convo couch.
Would now be a good time to bring up my lecture on Adam Smith?
No. I think we're hungry. And we want...
Somebody's hangry over there, and she's going, Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us again tonight on our Rockfin live from the debate.
Thank you for our super chats. They're always appreciated on the couch.
I love it when you say that, Fee. Yes,
you.
and some people were saying that the other day. They were somebody, I'll tell you what they said to me. Like, Pasha, I gotta tell you something
appreciated.
About Fee. They're always. It was awesome that you joined us tonight. Tina Desiree Burke came on in. It's great when we do these things together.
I'm just kidding.
There wasn't. There were some issues I heard here and there with the with Rockfin, but we're gonna have them work on it. But thank you. I think it's a great platform, and it really helps us out when you go over there.
I think it's better each time.
It gets better each time. You know what I'm saying? So it's it's like Bernie's debate. It's been getting better each time. So yeah, I mean, it just launched this year, this couple months ago.
I think it's going to grow and fulfill a niche that needs to be filled because we're not going to get a fair shake any longer from the corporate
It's just
platform.
like Bernie.
We're not gonna.
We're not going to. We need to practice what we preach. I like the idea of having a creator co-op, all of it. So.
And they're not silencing our voices there. They're not shutting us down and pulling us down. So
they're doing the opposite.
Jardula,
they're helping us.
Yes, they are. For Pasta Jardula.
Pasta's hungry, I guess. It's Fiorella.
and Tina Desiree Burke. Johnny Sue on the ones and twos.
Come
Ever
on
prouder.
Come on.